Okay, bottom of page 1. What was the name of the first independent African American denomination? What do we got there? Good.
Pioneer African Methodist Episcopal.
Yes, the AME, yes. Not on the handout, but a question I definitely want you to know the answer to. Can anybody answer that question? Good.
Preachers.
Preachers, ministers, yes. Good. Well, top of page 2, let's go to that. What was the only southern state to consider taking, sorry, that's a typing error, I missed the phrase, to end the institution of slavery? And the answer, once again, everybody, Virginia. But understand, Virginia did not end slavery, okay? Certainly, Virginia is going to be the home of the Confederacy in the Civil War, and that's going to be important to understand. They were still a slave state. Okay, what is manumission? Anybody get that far? Jesse?
Voluntary freeing of enslaved people, especially those who fought in the revolution.
Yes, and it's voluntary. In other words, it's when a slave owner decides the slaves have freedom. It's not a state law, not a federal law. It's something the slave owner decides. An example of that would be George Washington, who said when he passed away, his slaves should be freed. Okay. How about the next one there? How and why did an American culture change? Anybody get that far? How did cultures? Go ahead.
Created powerful national feeling.
Yeah, definitely nationalism. And I want you to think that through. What does nationalism mean? What does nationalism mean? Nobody knows what nationalism means. Who knows? Go ahead.
Isn't it like kind of being like?
Not isn't it? Don't
It
answer
is.
my question with a question. It is. Go ahead.
It's like being like proud for your country or like
Yeah.
having your own identity.
Proud, love for your country. Yes. Very much like patriotism. Yes. What else? What else? What's another way in which American culture changed? Jesse, you got an idea?
Well, like all the states like they had one common enemy.
Okay, I agree. Yes. And I think we could also say they started to become united. Yeah. Let me go one step further. What are you reading in English class right now?
Christmas Carol.
And who wrote it? Charles Dickens. You do realize that Charles Dickens is English, right? What I want you to understand is actually a contrast to that. Here's what I want you to think of. Americans started thinking of themselves as Americans. They started calling themselves Americans, no longer descendants of English or descendants of German. They had a different identity, and yes, jot down that word. Now, why did I bring up Charles Dickens? The reason I did that was because I want you to understand they started writing about topics here in the Americas. Okay? Started writing about topics here. Example, Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Anybody ever hear that one? Last of the Mohicans. Everybody heard that one. Scarlet Letter. Okay? Topics here in the Americas. And look at the next question there. How about John Trumbull? What were some of the subjects that he painted and talked about? Go ahead.
Like battles.
Yeah, battles, and they revered the battles, the key battles of the Revolution. How about and you could say important people too. How about Charles Wilson Peale? What do we got for Charles? Go ahead.
Painted a lot of portraits of like George Washington and
Very good. Washington. Yes, and other important figures. By the way, John Trumbull was the one that painted Washington crossing the Delaware. Okay, talk about key events. Again, I want you to understand they're talking about subjects here in the United States, not in Europe. Okay, let's move right along here. We'll come back to that. What was the Articles of Confederation? Who's got that? Go ahead.
A plan for boosting of the states, like under the controlled by Congress.
Controlled by Congress. I like the way you said that. Okay, what's the only branch of government that existed? You basically just said it. I'm looking for the formal name. Civics. A little bit of civics here. What's that only branch of government that existed under the Articles? Go ahead. It is legislative, yes. I definitely you do want to know that. States have all the power. Okay, so let's take a look up at the screen here and let me explain this. The war is over, and they kind of just sat around and said, well, what do we do now, Jesse? The war is over. What do we do? Well, then you would not be Alexander Hamilton. You know why? Because if you were Alexander Hamilton, you definitely had a plan. And your way was right, and we were all wrong, and that's all there was to it. Try telling Ben Franklin what to do. That's not going to fly either. You want a guy like Sam Adams, he's going to be pretty quiet about it, not say much, but he's not going to be swayed either. Now, let's just say right now that all of us in this room, there's what, 9 of us? And we're going to say, okay, this is the food we're going to eat the rest of the week. This is our favorite color. And this is the music we're going to listen to. Are we going to agree on that, Gracie? Probably not. Could you imagine sitting around in a room trying to create a new government? And the question is, hey, do we even have to create a new government? Why get rid of the Articles of Confederation? We won the war with it. Sometimes you change something, you might make it worse than what it was. So do we really need to scrap it? Well, we know that's what ends up happening, but I want you to understand there were some people that said, no, just change what you need to change, keep it there, and move on. Well, Bryson, what do we do? What do we do?
We change it.
No, we don't change it. We tear it right in half. We get rid of it. We'll get to that. Okay, so go ahead and hit the lights there. Adopted by the Continental Congress, you get the idea. It was actually written in 1776, and then it became law in 1777. The thing I want you to understand is this was alive and well during the Revolution. Okay, this was alive and well during the Revolution. It was the first written plan of government as far as the national government is concerned. Now, it was not a constitution, although it was very similar to that. Okay, so let's take a look there at your handout. Actually, let's go ahead and turn the lights back on. Sorry about all that. What was the articles? We just did that. Let's do this before we move on. They did not want to give up that what? Independence to a new central government that might become tyrannical. Yes. Why would it be hard to come up with a central government that we could all agree to? Think of the context. Why is it hard to agree to a new central government? Go ahead.
Because they just got free from like the king who was the central government.
And now you're going to have a president with a lot of power? Ugh. Eerily similar, wasn't it? There was no what? Anybody get that? Think about the one branch we said we did have, so think about the two you didn't have. Go ahead. Yes, no executive, no judicial. What were some powers the Confederation Congress had? Anybody get that far? Go ahead.
The right to declare war, raise armies, and sign treaties.
Yes, declare war, raise armies, and sign treaties. Now, keep in mind with that armies thing, they couldn't make it mandatory. Okay? What were some powers they didn't have? Good.
They couldn't impose taxes or regulate trade.
Yep, could not impose taxes or regulate trade. Bless you.
Thank you.
Okay, go into Canvas there. And what I want you to do is watch this video where we see a comparison between the Articles and the Constitution. Okay? I have it written there. Okay? Whatever suits you. While that's loading up, right there in your notes, there's probably a commercial at the beginning. Just make 2 columns right there in your notes. Here's what I want you to do. You can do a T chart, whatever you want to do, but just make strengths on one side, on the left, so we'll keep it all the same. Strengths and weaknesses of the articles, okay? Just make 2 columns, do it right there in your notes. You can even Google it, but go ahead and watch that video. It's only a couple minutes and it's good, right to the point, okay? Probably got about a minute or so left. You can collaborate, see what you have for strengths and weaknesses with the person beside you. All right.
This good job.
I also have my other strengths on.
Sorry. I figured everybody was done with the video. All right, go ahead and collaborate. What are some strengths? What are some weaknesses? Now, there is one strength I need you to write down. On the strength side, make sure you get the Northwest Ordinance, and I'll talk about that during class, okay? But that was one of the things that happened during the articles, okay? All right, collaborate. What do you got there? Strengths, weaknesses. Go ahead, chat it up. I'll get to it. I'll go over it with you.
Weak central government, one branch, and only less states and taxes.
Okay, let's chat it up here. What? Give me some strengths. Georgia, just rattle off your list of strengths.
I had to. So the Northwest Ordinance that you said, and then I said that the states have power.
Okay, states do have power. Yes. Any other strengths there, Bryson?
Prevents tyranny.
Okay. Prevents tyranny. You could argue that. Yeah, I see how you would, depending on how you argue it. Sure. Don't forget declare war. Okay. Could raise an army, though it was not mandatory, and you could also sign treaties. All right, weakness. Let's take a look at all the weaknesses. Gracie, what do you have for weaknesses of the articles?
I heard that there was no other way to collect taxes, and they didn't really accomplish much.
Okay, no power to tax. Didn't really accomplish much. Won't argue that. What else? Go ahead.
I said they're weak on a domestic and global scale.
Okay, yes, agreed. We're missing a big one though. Jesse.
There was a weak central government.
Weak central government. Good.
They only had
One branch. So there is no what and what?
Checks and balances.
No checks and balances. Yes. Now I threw a bunch up here. Some are more critical than the others. I'll just show you that. Okay. I'll just show you this. I'm not too worried about the Postal Service. All right. But that is one of the things. Obviously, it is very important, though, because at the time, that's the only way you're going to get information. You're not going to send tweets. Okay. So, with all seriousness, that is important. But now understand this gets scrapped and we replace it with the Constitution, which, of course, you're familiar with that story. All right. Moving right along. Go to your handout. Go over to page 6. I think it is. Go to page 6 of your handout. Those that just came in, if you want to take somebody's notes, take a picture of it, however you want to do it. All right, on page 6 on your own, go ahead and go through the clues there on the left, or in the middle, sorry, and check or put an X or whatever you want to do on if that applies to the Constitution or the Articles. Okay, take a look. You're not turning it in. It's not for grade. Let's just try it and see what you come up with. Well, you're going to take about a minute here, so just try to go through it. Don't worry about looking them up. Kind of recall of 8th grade, civics, etc. See what you can do. Then we'll go over it together. See what we got. Make a decision. We got to go. 30 seconds. 20, 10, 8, 3, done. Executive branch, call out.
Constitution.
Agreed. I think we all agree. Judicial branch,
Constitution.
agreed. Legislative,
Both.
both, agreed. Representation of the states.
Both.
Yeah, it is. But the Constitution was actually set up to have the representation, and we all know that with the House and the Senate. And of course, under the Articles, you had each state considered equal. Okay, so yeah. I would go with both. Just understand the differences, though. Passing a law. No. Constitution. Come on. You're gonna watch Schoolhouse Rock in detention. A bill on Capitol Hill, right? You remember that? Yeah. I'm not giving you a hard time. I was just reminding you of a great cartoon you once watched, right? Power over states and individuals. Constitution, yes. Amending.
Constitution.
Good. What are the first 10 called? Bill of Rights, good. Raising an army. Both, but again, remember other articles, it can't be mandatory. Okay. And also, there's no commander in chief. Wouldn't hurt to note that under the articles, only under the Constitution. Power to tax. Constitution. Control over trade. Yep, Constitution. Boy, is that ever a big one, isn't it? Have you heard of all the backlogs we've been having and all the goods over off the coast of California, and we can't get Christmas stuff, and oh boy, maybe I'll get a bag of coal. No, since I burn coal, that would suit me. Bill of Rights. Constitution, yes. Okay. Here's your brain teaser of the day. We got 30 seconds to tell me which one will fill first.
No, it's not.
No.
How? Because the
It's close.
Stop telling answers. All right, who knows it? Nobody knows it. One knows it. Willing to stand on your own. Maggie, so you're him first. Tell us. It is not 9.
Oh.
9 is closed right here. And now we got it down to 3. Go ahead. 5. 5, yes. 5 is open the whole way back to here. This would fill up. There you go. Can't be 7 because of this. And then over here you got 4 is blocked also. Okay, let's take a look at this question. Now, you guys know this. That's why we're moving rather quickly. This is today's government under the articles. We would have had only which branch of government, everybody? Legislative, yes, we know that. Okay. The American experiment. No, I will show you that one tomorrow. That's a optical question there. You want it now? Since I showed you. It is an old one.
No, is it blue or
What color is it?
blue?
It's blue and black. What else is it?
Blue and gold.
Blue and gold.
I see white and gold.
Thank you. That is white and gold.
Woo!
There is no way that you see blue on that picture.
that is blue and black.
No way.
Blue and gold.
I mean, it's a little gold at the top, but it's blue and black.
All right, I'll start class with that tomorrow again. All right, I do want you to know that they called this America an experiment, okay? An American experiment. All the things that Tom Paine argued. That this big continent cannot be controlled by a little island and things like that. This big continent cannot be controlled by an island, Tom Paine said. Well, I want you to understand, at the same point, they said that's why America's not going to work. You cannot have a huge continent, one small central government over in Washington, and everything is going to be considered governed, that you would have the checks and balances, that everything would be effective. The British actually thought, well, you know what? It's inevitable that this whole thing is going to fail. It's not going to last. You can't allow for difference of opinions. You can't have a 2/3 majority vote, and that would be acceptable. 2/3 is a magic fraction. Don't forget, that means 1/3 of the people might not be in favor of it. British said, this is not going to happen. You can't do this. And actually, while they were all sitting around trying to make this happen, they said maybe we should just make Washington the king, which I told you that before. And some said get ready to say, whoa. Some said maybe we should just go back and be part of Britain again.
Whoa.
Wow.
But they didn't do that. Okay, so let's get to this topic. We need to know Shays' Rebellion. Essential question. What role did Shays' Rebellion have in the creation of the United States Constitution? Shays' Rebellion is huge. Very important topic. Very important discussion. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Grab your book. Go to page somewhere around 200-ish. That's where the Constitution is, anyway. Actually, it's way before that. It's back on like 160.
Would that be chapter 5?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, 161. 161. Top right, 161, Shays' Rebellion. Okay, before we read this, I want you to understand Daniel Shays was a captain during the Revolutionary War. Okay, take a look up at the screen here. Shays' Rebellion was an armed uprising that took place in central and western Massachusetts, 1786 through 1787. Daniel Shays was a veteran of the American Revolutionary War and one of the rebel leaders. Okay, obviously, it kind of repeats the fact that he was a captain. But I want you to know he's the one that led the rebellion. Now, why did this actually happen? Well, first and foremost, while you're writing all this down, I want you to know the rebellion was about taxes. The rebellion was over taxes. Here we go again, right? Give me an example of taxes.
Stand back.
Stamp Act, probably the first one that comes to mind. We also had coercive acts, charging people to use the port of Boston. Don't forget Trade and Navigation Acts. Well, in this case, what happened is, what was the financial status of the states when the war was over? What's the financial status? Come on, wake up. What's the financial status? Go ahead. Maggie, go. They were in debt. So what does the government do when you need money?
Tax.
You can tax or you can print more money. The problem is if you print more money, the value of money goes down. We're dealing with that right now in our economy. Just print more money. Yeah, you can do that. Take economics, learn some fiscal policy, you'll understand how that works. It's not always the greatest solution. Not that it's a terrible solution either. It all depends which economist you talk to. Do we have tariffs or no tariffs? Where do we go with this? Okay. So here's what happened. Massachusetts government raised property taxes. The Massachusetts government decides they're going to raise property taxes. Well, think about it. Who gets hammered when you have property taxes? Who gets hurt the most? Who has to pay the most? Good. Keep going. Be more specific. You're right. Good. Farmers. Make sure you understand that. It's the farmers that get hit the hardest. Okay? Well, say you're a farmer and you're already in debt because you were off fighting in the war. Which are you? Are you a creditor or are you a debtor? If you owe money, which one are you? You're a debtor. Creditors can say, okay, well, we can loan you money, but what happens when you don't pay back the money? Well, yeah, you're in debt, but what else happens? Go ahead. You lose your land. The very land that the man just got done fighting for. And the other reason why he's in debt and thousands of other people is because they were all fighting in the war. Now you're going to raise taxes. You can't pay it. Now you're going to take the farms. You see why Daniel Shays is red in the face here? Why we had a rebellion? No, we don't understand. Are you with me? I got 3 people saying yes. Everybody along. With me. So who's hurt the most? Once again. Okay. Notice Jefferson says, I hold it that a little rebellion now and then is a good thing. So what does he think of Shays' rebellion? Depending on how it goes, could be a good thing. All right, let's go to page 161. Lights on or off, your call. Shays' rebellion, let's go to it. Amy, go, and then you can call somebody.
The property owners' fears seemed justified when a full-scale rebellion known as Shays' Rebellion erupted in Massachusetts in 1786. The rebellion started when the government of Massachusetts decided to raise taxes instead of issuing paper money to pay off its debts. The taxes fell most heavily on farmers, particularly poor farmers in the western part of the state. As the recession grew worse, many found it impossible to pay their taxes as well as their mortgages and other debts. Those who could not pay often faced the loss of their farms. Georgia.
Angry at the legislature's indifference to their plight, in late August 1786, farmers in western Massachusetts rebelled. They closed down several country courthouses to prevent farm foreclosures. Where's the other? Okay. And then marched on the state Supreme Court. At this point, Daniel Shays, a former captain in the Continental Army, who was now a bankrupt farmer, emerged as one of the rebellion's leaders.
In January 1787, Shays and about 1,200 farmers headed to the state arsenal, intending to seize weapons before marching on Boston. In response, the governor sent more than 4,000 volunteers under the command of General Benjamin Lincoln to defend the arsenal. Before they arrived, Shays attacked, and the militia defending the arsenal made them fight. 4 farmers died in the fight, and the rest scattered. The next day, Lincoln's troops arrived and ended the rebellion. The fears the rebellion had raised, however, were harder to disperse.
A call for change. People with greater income and social status tended to see the rebellion as well as inflation and unstable currency as signs that the republic itself was at risk. They feared that as state legislatures became more democratic and responsive to poor people, they would weaken property rights and vote to take property from the wealthy. As General Henry Knox, a close aide to George Washington, concluded, "What is to afford our security against the violence of lawless men? Our government must be braced, changed, and or altered to secure our lives and property."
These concerns were an important reason why many people, including merchants, artisans, and creditors, began to argue for a strong central government.
Say that sentence again. Please.
These concerns were an important reason why many people, including merchants, artisans, and creditors, began to argue for a stronger central government.
Make sure you put that down as the key significance. This was the impetus for a strong central government. Shays' Rebellion woke people up and said, hey, what we're doing isn't going to work. We need something stronger. Now, agreeing on what to do is going to be the hard part. But it sent the message that we need something stronger. Okay, let's take a look up at the screen here. Let's read through that. Jesse, if you would, everybody take a look.
In the winter of 1786 to 1787, Daniel Shays, a former Continental Army officer, led a large contingent of Revolutionary War veterans in protest against the tax policies and debt collection laws of the state of Massachusetts. A coalition of state militias stopped Shays and his rebels as they marched on the arsenal in Springfield in southwestern Massachusetts.
And Shays was pardoned in 1788. Okay? Now, what you need to understand is this. It shook people's belief in popular government. That's what you need to understand. It said that we can't have this popular government where every state's considered the same and we have no checks and balances. And that's what you need to understand. It shook people's belief in popular government. And there was a need for a stronger central government. That's what you want to know. So what's this new government we're going to have? Constitution. Be Ben.
I'll be there. So will I, and I'll help write 10 parts of it.
Who said that he will write 10 parts of it? Who?
Eden.
Come on. Who said I will write 10 parts of it? Nobody knows.
Wasn't that like,
I'll give you a hint. It's not the 10 Commandments.
Jefferson.
No.
the Bill of Rights?
Yeah. So who wrote it? Now we're getting somewhere. Nobody knows who wrote the Bill of Rights.
Is that Wifey Adams?
Yes, Madison. Make sure you know James Madison wrote the Bill of Rights. That's James Madison. All right, here's the deal. Listen to me. Friday, we will not have class. Don't worry about material. I will not have a video. Go ahead and hit the light, sir, if you would. Assignments are not due till next week. I posted them already. If you want to work ahead, one of them has to do with Shays Rebellion and some others. Okay? Have a great day.